have stories. Every single one of us. From the highest of the high to the lowest of the low, we all have stories. Exploring the world for the greatest stories of all time.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Aron O'Dowd Show.
The Aron O'Dowd Show. Our soul is the screen upon which we project our dreams. What's your story?
Hello and welcome on today's episode of the Aron O'Dowd Show. We have another amazing guest to figure out what makes their soul lens incredible. We're going to speak about the voice, the vocals, and an incredible individual named Kristy Hunter. I discovered her in a community and I got to hear her sing, and wow, my little hairs on the back and neck got me goosebumps, and I thought, we gotta have her on. So hello, welcome to the show, Kristy. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. Aron, thank you so much for inviting me on today. I'm so excited to be here.
Tell us about how you discovered the voice you have.
So I've been singing my whole life. I'm the youngest of 11 children. And in my house, if you wanted to be seen, you kind of had to be a little bit loud because there were so many people all the time. So I started performing at a very young age. My first play I was in, I was only 5 years old. And I have just always loved, as a kid, I would just make up songs all the time. You would find me creating little jingles, or I would sing my prayers. I just always wanted to be singing. I thought life should be a musical.
And were your family musical outside of you?
Yes. My father was doing shows when he was a kid and in college, and he's an accounting professor, but he always enjoyed singing. And we would go perform at care centers and in the community. We would go Christmas caroling every year. And they were always very supportive of me using my voice, mostly to do good in the world.
Wow, a singing family. That must be amazing.
Happy birthday sounds really good at our house. Like everyone's harmonizing, and yeah, it's a pretty fun time.
And so you're 6 and you're doing songs. What was your favorite song that you loved singing outside of happy birthdays and happy and all that?
So as a kid, I was really into Broadway music, and I had the posters of Les Miserables and Phantom of the Opera on my walls, and everything about life was Broadway. So when I was 18, I had the opportunity to go to New York City and see my first Broadway show. And the very first show I ever saw on Broadway was Jekyll and Hyde. And my favorite song from that show is Someone Like You. And that song has a lot of meaning to me because just this last year, and this is, I think Aron was in this breakthrough. I did a breakthrough with Forbes Riley, and this was the song that was being played in the background. And when she noticed I was singing it, because all the cameras were off, it was a Zoom call. And she's like, do you know this song? Because the sound was off, but the cameras were on and people could see me singing along. And I was like, oh yeah, this is a song I've performed my whole life. And she had me sing that song for that group. And what I didn't realize before is how much I'd been holding myself back. I had been a musical director and a vocal coach in my community for the last decade. I teach 100 or plus voice students each year and direct multiple shows a year. And I have so much fun with that. But I had been scared to release my own music. I was a closet songwriter. I'd written over 100 songs, but had not released them. And thanks to that song, which made me look at what if I loved myself enough to believe in myself. After that breakthrough experience, I started releasing my own songs. So this year of 2024, I released 10 of my own original songs, which is just really exciting for me.
How does it feel to have your own music?
I've had my own music for as long as I can remember. Like I said, even when I was little, I would write songs, but to actually put my music out into the world, and then I've become a concert keynote speaker, so then go and tell people the stories of why I wrote those songs, has been a dream come true. It is most of the time when I'm writing songs, it's for therapeutic reasons. Like I'm working through the hard things that have happened in my life. I'm working through the times that I was really struggling and I didn't know how to process the emotions. And so I process those emotions, whether they're happy, excited emotions or very, very hard, sad emotions or angry emotions or whatever they are, through music. And so by now taking them, not just from my closet where it was safe and small and just mine, and putting them out to the world, I really feel like I'm able to have an impact on other people and maybe help them through the hard things that they're going through.
Why did you have to have all this amazing art in your own closet where no one could look at, you know?
I think it was a safe place where sometimes you don't want people to know that you're struggling. Because I am from a big family, and I kind of always just felt this, like, I had to wear a mask and pretend everything was always okay. Not because anyone told me I had to, but it was just kind of how it felt. It just felt like, oh, we're just supposed to smile and everything's going to be okay. And I was on stage my whole growing up, and you play a part. And in my closet, I was me. Like, this was like the deepest parts of me, the most authentic parts of me. And I was scared. I will completely admit, I was scared to let the world know that I had broken parts.
That must have felt hard to mask the world, and yet you feel you're in a way that you have to hide this amazing art.
It was definitely a thing that I felt like this music that I created was almost like a private thing, right? Like this is mine. This is what I use for my own therapy, not realizing that when I wrote songs about infertility, because I spent 10 years not able to have children, and I wrote a beautiful song called Broken Dreams that is about that, because everyone else around me was having kids. I was an aunt I had like 40 plus nieces and nephews. I didn't feel like I was fulfilling my purpose on earth when I couldn't have kids. And so I wrote this song about that and pleading with God to help me through these broken dreams. I know other people have things that they've dreamed of doing that didn't happen, whether it's a job or getting married or completing a degree or traveling, or they're like, I really wanted to make that happen. And then for whatever reason, it didn't. And so as I started releasing these songs that were really private experiences in my life, I started to have people come to me and say, oh my gosh, I've experienced that too. I've had broken dreams. I've experienced infertility. I've experienced these things. And all of a sudden I realized, wow, my music not only can help me through my processes, but can help other people. So I've created a concert keynote speech called The Steps to Overcoming Overwhelm. And in it, I sing 5 of my original songs and tell different stories that go along with each one to help people figure out those steps that you can take to get from a place of feeling stuck and overwhelmed to being prosperous and working through it. Doesn't mean the hard things don't happen, but you can work through them faster and you can move forward and progress in your life.
Tell us about the not having a child, because as a woman, that's a sacred part of the world, is to develop and have a child in the world. Did you feel like, oh, I can't have it, but in some way?
I did. I spent 10 years in infertility, and it was very hard, but God led me to do other things. I graduated with my degree as a recreational therapist. I went to Mongolia in the Peace Corps with my husband, and we served for 2 years there. I worked as a recreational therapist with nuns at a convent in Milwaukee, and I was able to serve a lot of people. And I realized I had a lot of other talents that weren't just being a parent. Now, God did bless me. And when I was 29 years old, I adopted my son, who was 5 at the time. And then miraculously, right after his adoption was finalized, I did find out I was pregnant with my daughter. So I ended up with 2 kids within a 2-year period that were, 7 years apart. It was kind of a crazy thing. And then 5 years later, I had my second daughter. So I have 3 beautiful children now at 46. My oldest is 23 and my youngest is 10. And I am so blessed that they are part of my life. I wrote a fun song called Little Things when they were little, and I all of a sudden had 3 kids in 3 different sectors of life. And now I'm overwhelmed with all the dreams I wanted, right? Like now we're doing the opposite. It's like, oh my gosh, this is what I wanted and I'm so happy. But at the same time, it's really hard. And that song is about finding gratitude in just the small things of life, because every day there's going to be stuff that's hard. And if we are constantly saying, I'll be happy when soccer season's over, or I'll be happy when I get this raise, or I'll be happy when this happens, whenever we do that, we're losing the opportunity to be happy right now. And I find that looking at the little things that we can have, whether it's in our relationships, whether it's at our work, whether it's with our kids, that's really where the joy comes. And that's what that song's all about.
You know, in those 10 years, Jeannie, you achieved a lot. Tell us why you had to serve.
I realized that service is when you serve other people, you find yourself. And when I really believe God was the one who led me to figure, I'd never heard of the Peace Corps. And I was at a library randomly, and I found a recruiter. This recruiter came out and was like, have you heard of the Peace Corps? And they explained it to me. And you have to have a 4-year degree. And my husband was an English teacher, and I was a rec therapist. And they called us to serve in Mongolia. You guys, Mongolia is a landlocked country. It's below Russia, above China. And we lived in a tent for 2 years and chopped wood and carried water, and we taught life skills and taught English. And it was a remarkable experience. And it taught me so much about one, how little you really need to be happy. The people there are so humble and so kind. And we had electricity every other day for a few hours. And the kids would play with ankle bones, were their toys. And they were some of the happiest people I've ever met. And I realized, like, we are very, as consumers in America, I feel like we overconsume so many things, and we really could find happiness at a much more basic level. And it taught me a lot about that, about finding joy with just the little things that we can do. And I loved my experience in the Peace Corps.
Tell us about the therapist. Were you qualified or stuff like that?
Yeah, so I graduated from Brigham Young University as a recreational therapist. So that is what I got my degree in. I wanted to do music therapy, but they didn't have a music therapy program. So I ended up doing recreational therapy, and then took a lot of music classes and drama classes so I could use those as my modality. So now I'm also certified as a breakthrough certification facilitator, and I have had over 20 plus years of vocal training. So currently I'm a vocal empowerment coach, and I help people who struggle with knowing what to say and how to say it to become confident, whether they're getting ready to go on stage or they're getting ready to give a speech. Often we have things from our past that are holding us back. We have people told us that our words didn't matter. They told us to be quiet, or they put us down when we would say things and we felt we weren't smart enough to speak our mind or really to speak our truth. And I really have this strong belief that people don't hear the words we say, they hear our heart. So really connecting to our emotions and teaching people, what is the emotional arc of what you're trying to share with your audience? What do you want them to feel when you're talking? Because that's really what they're going to hear. And helping them to really tune into that tonality of their voice, to the emotion behind the stories they're sharing, so that they can speak their truth and have what I call a heart-centered message. So that's really what I'm doing now with all of my education and all the things I've done over the last 20 years. And I just started a new network called the Heart-Centered Speaker Network. And this is an awesome place for anyone who has a message that they want to share, that they can come on and start practicing. Practice fine-tuning your 2-minute speech that you're going to be able to send to podcasts or send to event hosts, so that they know what you're going to say, and that every word you say has meaning and truth and is true to you. And I think that's really important, because all of us have our own special message. Nobody has the same vocal cords. I think that's the coolest thing. We all sound very uniquely ourselves. And when we learn to love our voice and love who we are and love our message, it's so much easier to share it, because we feel like it's a gift that we're giving instead of a burden.
Why is a heart-centered message so important in today's world?
In today's world, there's so much that's broken and fragmented. There's so much arguing, and people feel like if I say what I really think, people are going to be mad at me. Or if I say how I truly feel, there's going to be judgment, or people are going to, give me a thumbs down, or they're going to criticize me on social media, right? That's a big thing, because we have this facade. It's like really a mask that we can put on social media, and we can either speak our truth or we can, pretend. And I spent a lot of years pretending, so I know what that's like. And now I try to be 100% authentic. I try to be like, life is where it is. Life can be really hard. It can be rough. And I think what's important is respecting other people's point of views, respecting other people's messages and what they have to say, and realizing that we all have a message. We all have feelings. We all have emotions, and everybody's perception of this life is valid. And when we start validating each other and listening and then sharing and have symbiotic relationships where we give and receive as easily as we breathe, and we're just constantly giving and receiving and being open to each other's ideas, to each other's businesses, to each other's really accomplishments, instead of being jealous, we're just like, wow, that is so cool. I want to work together. If we're collaborating instead of competing, that's so much more growth is going to happen. This world can only get better through collaboration and through true heart-centered messages where we know that what we're saying is how we truly feel. And who can be offended when somebody is speaking their truth? If you're listening and wanting to hear truth, and then that person is also going to listen to you, that symbiotic relationship is going to only cause beautiful things to grow.
Authentic is a word that we hear in today's world where it's thrown around and it's quite broad. But for you, what does that word mean?
I think authentic for me is being okay to share when things aren't going perfect, being okay to share my ups and my downs, being excited to share when I learned something new and be like, oh my gosh, this is something new that I learned. I want to share it with you, and not feeling like I have to know everything, because I don't. Right? Sometimes if we're a coach, or if we're like, I always tell my students, I'm like, I have vocal coaches still. I've been taking voice lessons since I was 12 years old, and I still currently work with 2 or 3 different teachers. And sometimes they're like, you take lessons from people? I'm like, of course. You can never stop learning. And the more open you are about the fact that you are growing and learning and becoming more, I think other people are more willing to go, oh, wow, well, I want to learn and grow and become more. I think that when we're inauthentic is when we're telling people we're people pleasing. We're telling people what we think they want to hear to give them what we think they need, instead of really believing like, okay, this is who I am. Can I serve you? Is what I have what you need? And if it is, wonderful. If it's not, that's okay. Maybe what you need, a friend of mine has, and I can refer them to you, right? I feel like that's the authenticity, is not pretending that we have the answers for everybody, but instead realizing, what can I give in this moment to this person or this group of people? And how can I serve? How can I serve you?
So how can you serve us?
Well, I always serve with my voice. So I always sing. That's how I serve. Generally, I often write songs. And this year, I was very blessed to be able to write for a couple of a nonprofit organization. So Believe It or Not, I Care is a nonprofit organization that is fighting against suicide and fighting against bullying. And it's a beautiful program by Sandy Austin that started in Colorado, but has expanded and is now a worldwide organization. And I was able to write a beautiful song called Hearts Made Whole. And it was a duet that I had 2 of my 16-year-old students sing, because the audience is those high school students. And it just turned out beautiful. They were able to use that for their 20th anniversary. And that meant so much to me. I also was able to write a song for a dear friend of mine whose wife had passed away. And I always say my songs are from God. I kind of download them. And he posted a beautiful picture of her walking on the beach just weeks before she passed away. And when I saw the picture, the words to a beautiful song just came to me. And I was able to write those down and write the song and share it with my friend. And he was so grateful. And so the gift that I've been given by God is this ability to create music that hopefully changes lives. And the second gift that I've been given is to help people find their true voice, to be confident in it, to be able to break through the limiting beliefs they have holding them back from feeling like they can share their truth, and help them step into their power, because our voices are power.
Why is God so important to you?
Because he's there in the darkest of times. And he's there when we win too. He's always there. Just a few months ago, I ended up making a really big investing mistake. I was involved with an investing scam. And it was from Facebook. I clicked on a link, want to learn how to invest. And I was like, yes, I do. I want to learn how to do this. And man, it was like 4 months long, and they took me down this path, and I was winning, and they were teaching me all these things. And in the end, it ended up being a pump and dump scheme. And I lost 6 figures worth of money that I did not have to lose. And it really hit me. And I spent a good 2 weeks where I was barely functioning. I felt gullible. I felt stupid. I had reached out to the police, and people are researching this and trying to stop it from happening. They'd stolen someone's identity to do this. They'd stolen somebody's company name and their website. They'd done a lot of stuff to make this happen. And I had to get down with God and really be like, Heavenly Father, like, this feeling of like, why did this happen to me? Like, I was doing everything right. I was doing all the good things, but then I realized so many unexpected challenges happen to people. The hurricanes that just happened, those people didn't do anything wrong to have their houses destroyed, right? I didn't necessarily do anything wrong to be cheated. It just happened. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sometimes a house burns down. Sometimes somebody's robbed, a car accident. Often these unexpected challenges hit, and we have 2 choices. We can either get angry and bitter and turn away from God, or we can turn toward him and say, how am I supposed to learn from this? What is this supposed to do to help people? And so from this experience, I actually wrote a new song that's called Phoenix. And it's about rising from the ashes and being reborn from those unexpected challenges that come our way. So if it's okay with you, Aron, I would like to sing it's just the chorus of this song. It's streaming on all platforms. You can find it on Spotify and Amazon Music and Apple Music. So I'll just sing the chorus.
Go ahead.
And it goes like this. Rise like a phoenix, burning bright, out from the shadows into the light. Lost it all, but I'm reborn from the fire, a new dawn. Rise like a phoenix, burning bright, out from the shadows into the light. Lost it all, but I'm reborn from the fire, a new dawn, a new dawn. And I truly believe that every challenge that we're given is our refiner's fire, that we get to take that to make us stronger, and we get to be reborn. And with the knowledge we get from it, we can move forward as more grounded, for me, a more grounded individual. Maybe I ask better questions. Maybe I can help other people. But life happens for us, not to us, as my mentor, Forbes Riley, always says. And I appreciate that outlook.
It is a fabulous outlook. And listening to you, are you alto, soprano, tenor? What vocal range are you?
I have a 3.5 octave range, which is really nice because I can sing anything from high soprano through alto. So that's really good. I love that I can sing a lot of things. I am most comfortable in my mezzo soprano range. That's where most of my songs are written, where I don't have to strain and I can just sing in joyful harmonies and write it. But yeah, I can sing quite high and I can sing quite low, but I will never be a bass. So there is that.
So you can make a water shake in the glass and you're really high, right?
There we go. We can like screech it all like, yeah. I don't know. I've never made a water glass break. That would be an interesting thing to test. That is not something I've accomplished, but I've never tried either.
And you teach music and so on. What inspires you to do that?
I love seeing people's face light up when they learn to do something that they couldn't do before. So the first time I helped somebody like find their head register or belt out a really big note and learn how to anchor their voice or learn how to transition from their chest voice into their mixed voice. Because those are things that a lot of people want to be able to do and don't know how. And when they do it and their face lights up and they're like, I did it. It's my favorite thing. I just love, and I love building confidence. I think one of my greatest superpowers is being a cheerleader. I always see the greatness in other people and what they can become. And I love taking somebody who was scared to, even sing mezzo piano, which means very, very quiet, and get them to the point that I call it freaking fortissimo, when it's super loud and they're belting out those big notes and they're smiling and they'll go perform. They'll perform for their family, or they'll perform at a care center, or they might even try out for a show and get into a play. And all of those things are so good. Another thing I've been doing is helping people get on stage with their speeches. And I put on Power Within Events is an event series that I've started. And I was able to take 2 other women and myself to the stage in May. And since then, we've now put on 3 other events. I have an event coming up in December, and I'm training people in my Heart-Centered Speaker course how to find their heart-centered message and be ready to share it on stage. Like, it's so exciting for me to help people not only know what they want to say, but connect those emotions and create that emotional arc that I think is so important, because I want the audience to have those feelings that you're really sharing in your stories. So yeah, it's my passion. I know it's what God put me on this planet to do. And so I'm just going to keep sharing, keep helping people learn how to use their voice and be confident in whether they want to sing on stage or speak or be on a podcast or just even talk to their neighbors confidently. I think that's a super important thing to be able to do.
Is that the message that your heart is here to do?
Yes. I think my heart is here to say that every one of us, I've written a song called Power Within. And I truly believe every single one of us has a specific purpose that we are supposed to fulfill. And we're the only ones who can do that. We're the only ones who can run that race and do that thing. And we need to look inside and find out, what is my purpose and why am I here? And my purpose is to help people find their voice, use their voice confidently, and to be excited about their message and their song. If there's somebody who wants to be a concert keynote speaker, helping them learn how to do that and how to take their songs and put them into stories and connect it all together. Like, all of these things just light me up and make me so excited to share my gifts with the world.
Before last year, when you discovered breakthrough in Forbes variety and the confidence you have, were you afraid to sing in public?
I've never been afraid to sing in public, but I always sang other people's songs in public. So I was on stage often, but again, when you're in a play, they hand you a script. They hand you a score. You memorize other people's words. You memorize other people's lines. You become a character. And I was very comfortable being a character. That was easy for me. And I had spent 20 years teaching other people how to be characters, right? I will say I was scared to just be me. I was scared I didn't know if people would just like Kristy for Kristy. And I think not even knowingly, I put on a face of Kristy's always happy. Everything's always good for Kristy. All things are, wonderful all the time. And I didn't want people to see the messy part. Even though there's success in the mess, I didn't want people to know that I had hard days and sad days and frustrated days. You had to be really close in my circle. Like, there was like sisters and best friends. There was a small group of people who knew about my hard. But for the most part, most people would probably be like, Kristy's the most upbeat, happy person ever, which I still am. I'm still an upbeat, happy person. But now I'm willing to talk about the messy parts. I'm willing to talk about the struggles that my family had through the years. I'm willing to talk about just being scammed, right? That's kind of embarrassing to be scammed out of $100,000. But I'm willing to talk about it because maybe someone else will be like, how did that happen? And I don't want that to happen to me, right? Be like, yeah, don't go in the WhatsApp group and, be taught how to invest by people that aren't being truthful, right? So there's things now that I'm willing to talk about and willing to be real about, where before I kind of was just being a part. So I think that's the difference. I've never been scared to sing or perform, but performing as myself, sharing my true stories, sharing my songs. That is what 2024 has been about, is stepping into who I truly am.
And the song you lip sing in that breakthrough, is that have significance and value throughout your life with that song?
So interestingly, Someone Like You was always a song that I loved. I performed it. I think I performed it in college a few times. I performed it at a lot of different events because it's just a beautiful song. Now, generally, that song is a love song. It's a song about a woman wishing that there was somebody out in the world who loved her, and she's looking at someone that she's in love with, the doctor, right? And she's like, oh, I wish Dr. Jekyll loved me that way, right? That's why she's singing the song. But the way Forbes twisted it to be about us, about what if we showed up for ourselves the way that we show up for other people, that was life-changing, because I kind of was in a space I was blaming everyone else for where I was. It was like, well, I married a teacher, so that's why our income level is here. I had a chance to go to Tennessee and work with a record label when I was 16, but my parents said no, that I should wait. So then that never happened. And I was kind of like, all of these things that I didn't happen when I was younger. Like, I never went to Broadway because I turned 18. I went to college and got married. Like, the things that I didn't do that I thought I wanted at one point, but it was like somebody else's fault. And what Forbes helped me realize in this breakthrough is anything I haven't accomplished in life is my own fault. And it's because I'm not cheering myself on. I went, oh my gosh, all this time I've been like, well, it's because of you, or it's because of this. And instead of going, Kristy, you have songs to sing, go record them. It was that day I got off that call and I called a recording studio and recorded my first song. And Someone Like You was the very first song I recorded. And after that, I was like, you know what? That was so cool. I'm going to record my own songs. So definitely that song is a huge turning point for me. And the chorus of that, if someone like you found someone like me, then suddenly nothing would ever be the same. My heart would take wing, and I'd feel so alive. If someone like you loved me. But if you think about that as loving yourself, that is so powerful, because we're always with ourselves. If we're our own biggest cheerleaders, there's nothing we can't accomplish. And that was the biggest shift I could have had in my life.
When you sing like songs like that and the songs you write, you get goosebumps in you.
I do, especially when I'm writing them. I get goosebumps. I get a feeling of purpose. I get this feeling of, people call it flow, right? When you're in the zone, when you're in your genius, when you're doing the thing that you just know you're meant to do. And that's what I get when I sing. It just brings me so much joy. And I'm so grateful that God gave me this gift and that He allows me to share it with other people.
What type of music influences it? Rock, hip hop, pop?
So I actually, growing up, I sang a lot of country music. So I have sung a lot of country, a lot of Broadway, because I do a lot of musical theater and some pop. Definitely, I like older music. I love Patsy Cline and I love Sarah Bareilles. Like, there's a lot of performers that their music really touches me, touches my soul. Because I'm the youngest of 11 kids, my parents are a lot older than me. My mom was 46 when I was born. So they're both actually 92 right now and still alive, which is amazing. But I grew up watching old musicals. So I grew up watching Seven Brides for Seven Brothers and Sound of Music and White Christmas every year. And so those classics, I know all of those songs. And my house was filled with the music of the 50s and 60s. And so I have spent a lot of my life going and performing at assisted living and care centers. I take many of my students there to bring joy to people that are in the end years of their life. And I find joy in almost any genre of music brings me joy. But I do find a lot of nostalgia in some of the older music that it just fills me with joy and happiness because I see how much it lights up other people when they hear music from their era.
It's funny how music can age, but when we hear it the first time, it's like, oh, and then whatever. But doing Broadway, what is your favorite Broadway?
What is my favorite Broadway? Oh my goodness, that's a difficult one, Aron, because every time I go to Broadway, I have a new favorite show. So I was just in New York this last summer, and The Notebook is a brand new Broadway show that recently came out. And that is also a book, which I had read when I was in college, but it blew me out of the water. I loved every second of that musical. So I know it's closing on Broadway soon, but they are going to have a touring company. If you can see The Notebook, it is beautifully done. Will make you cry. But the music, there's a song called My Days that is just probably one of the best songs I've heard written in a long time. So that is a plug for a new show. Older shows that I could see over and over and over again. I love Newsies. I'm a big Newsies fan. I've probably seen that show at least a dozen times. I've directed the show. And there is just something about the energy of that show that makes me really happy. The dancing, the message behind it, we can make change happen. I love that feeling that these kids came together and were like, no, this isn't fair. And we're not going to stand for it. And we're going to make change happen. And I'm a believer that we need to stand up for things when it's not okay. And we need to be willing to share our voice and stand up and make a difference and not just watch things happen that shouldn't be happening in this world. So that's one of my favorite shows.
And when you're sitting down watching, are you having your Broadway critique hash and say, should do this, should that, while you're listening to it?
So sometimes, I will be honest, my husband tells me I'm a musical snob, because when you are a vocal coach and stuff and you go to different people's shows, you automatically are thinking, oh, this is what they're doing with their voice, or this is what they're doing. But for the most part, I really, really try to just enjoy it. I wouldn't say that I'm not a very critical human. I'm more of like an excited human. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Look what they did here. When I'm teaching my students, I always am like, hey, what are the 3 things you did well? I always make them focus on the first 3 things they did well before we even discuss what we can fix. Because I'm a big believer on, if you focus what you're doing right, you'll do it again and you'll do more things right. So we focus on what we're doing right, and then we look at what we can fix. And I kind of do the same thing when I go to a show. I will be like, oh, this was really good, and this was really good, and this was really good. They could have done this, right? I'll find one thing that maybe they could have done differently. But for the most part, I really try and focus on what they're doing well, because there's always good.
Oh, for sure. And if someone's listening to this and they want to sing in a choir or on Broadway or do whatever, what is one major tip that you'd like to share with the audience?
You have to practice. You guys, singing, anyone can learn to sing. Anyone can learn to sing, but it's really learning to master your vocal parts and knowing how to use it. And the most important thing you can do is start singing. Spend 10, 15 minutes a day learning how to use your voice, whether that's actually getting a vocal coach, or even there's so many things on YouTube and on social media that can be a beginning place to start, right? But learning to strengthen your voice, making sure that you support your voice with the bigger muscles. If you're yelling and singing just straight from here, you're going to cause damage. And so it's very, very important to use your abdominal muscles, your back muscles, and really have good posture when you're singing and good breath support Those are probably the main things, because if you have those things in place, then you can learn to sing. But most importantly, I would encourage you to say, I love my voice. I'm learning more every day, because your voice is uniquely yours. A lot of people hate hearing themselves recorded. Like, they'll play back a recording. They're like, that's not what I sound like. And I really encourage my students to record themselves. They always have to sing into a microphone or speak into a microphone to pass off whatever we're working on. And that's because that's what the audience hears. The audience hears what's coming through the amplification is what they're hearing. And so you have to get used to what your voice sounds like. And not only get used to it, you have to love it. So I think positive words of affirmation towards your voice is so good. Like, I love my voice. My voice is so cool. My voice is uniquely mine. I'm so grateful I have it. I'm so grateful I can share it. So that would be my advice, is learn to love your unique voice and start practicing, because the more you practice, the better you'll get.
And did you have to adjust your own vocal cords recently?
I did. So recently I had a hiatal hernia and I had to have surgery. And this was crazy. I had a 2-inch hole in my diaphragm, and my stomach was actually above my diaphragm. And so acid from my stomach was burning my vocal cords, which had been going on for almost a year. I was having all kinds of problems with inflammation and swelling. And so I had to have this surgery, and the surgery fixed the acid reflux, which was great. But because I had 4 incisions into my abdomen, I lost all muscle control in my abdomen. This was not, I don't know why I didn't expect that. But I was like, oh my goodness, I did not realize after the surgery, I literally would have no breath support and I would not be able to sing. It was a 6 weeks of a liquid diet. There was retraining those muscles. I could barely even take a deep breath, let alone sing on a deep breath. I couldn't even sing a full song for almost the first month. So it has been a process of getting my strength back and relearning how to activate those muscles. I'm I had surgery in May. So I'm like 6 months out of that, and I'm doing a lot better, but I still do not have the control or the stamina that I had prior to surgery. So it's still growing. I'm still working on getting up to like being able to sing nonstop for an hour or more. I think about like 45 minutes, I do really good. And then I'm like, oh, that's my diaphragm's tired. But it's just like with weightlifting or with, cycling, like you do triathlons. With anything, you have to get those muscles used to it and get them, just conditioned that you can do this. And so it was a wake up call for me. And it was really good for me because now I realize, like these other students who are coming to me and don't have the endurance and don't have the muscle memory that I had, it's like now I can really empathize with them and really work together to build that stamina, where I think I took it for granted a little bit before because I'd had it for so long. It's like, oh yeah, it's just there. No, it's not just there, people. I know, like when you're starting from scratch, there's a lot of work to do.
And you talk about the voice. What is the power of the voice we have?
Each of us, I think it's important to realize that not only does our voice carry the words we say, but it carries tonality. I do an exercise with my kids called Mama Made Me Mash My M&Ms. And these are my students because I work at a program called Center Stage Youth Performers. And I teach over 100 kids in this group. And we do all kinds of music. We do Disney shows and we also do Broadway shows. And it's super fun. But one of the exercises I do is called Mama Made Me Mash My M&Ms. And we sing it and we go, Mama made me mash my M&Ms. It's a warm-up. But we also do it with different emotion because I can say those same words and say it like super excited. Like, I'm so excited that Mama let me do this. Mama made me mash my M&Ms. And it's super excited. But I could also be really sad about it. Mama made me mash my M&Ms. I could also be really angry. Mama made me mash my M&Ms. Or just like surprised. Mama made me mash my M&Ms. Did you hear how it was different every single time? It's the exact same words. It's the exact same words. That's why I say people don't hear the words you say. They hear your heart. They hear the emotion and the tonality in your voice. And that's why I think the voice is so important. That's one of the reasons I don't love texting, is because I feel like without them, I'm grateful for emojis, but without the emojis, like, what is the tonality? Are you actually getting what I'm trying to say? And when we speak and we are connected to our emotions and we're able to actually speak truth and know that our emotions that we're saying are the words connected, that those are in alignment, I think so much less miscommunication happens.
And it's interesting when you watch opera. It's very passionate, and the vocal range are amazing, and it's fascinating, isn't it?
Oh, yes. And all the different kinds of music, right? So like there's different styles. Opera singers, I've never done opera, but opera singers have a completely different way of supporting their voice in these huge sounds. Like I love listening to Pavarotti, and it's just amazing. And then you have, you go to the other end of the spectrum, you've got jazz, which is like super airy and soft, and they're using the amplification of the mic so much more. And then you have everything in between, right? You have country where you're doing really spread vowels and everything is a little harder. And then you have Broadway, which is super bright. And it's amazing. You can change your voice to do so many things. And I think that's the power of music and the voice, is we all have the same vocal parts, but the way we use our voice is very different depending on where we're born, how we're raised, that the accent or the languages we speak will change the way we use it, and will make it just unique to us. And I love that about the voice.
What advice would you give your younger self?
I would tell my younger self to publish your songs sooner. I would definitely have said that. Don't be scared to put yourself out there. But I would also tell my younger self, it's going to be okay. You're going to do some really cool things with your life. Just enjoy the journey. Because I think along the way, I was really hard on myself and felt like if I wasn't doing everything perfect, then it wasn't okay. And now at 46, I can look at life and go, you know what? You were doing the best you could with what you had. And by golly, that was good enough. And really have more empathy. I think I look at women in their 20s and 30s, and I just want to hug them. I just want to be like, oh, just be kind to yourself. Just realize you're doing so much and you're amazing and you're working so hard, and give yourself grace, because we can't, sometimes we want to be superwoman and we want to get everything done right now. And if we're not crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's in every moment of every day, then, we failed. And that's just not the case. I think taking action is super important. So I always try and encourage people, have those goals, have that dream board, have those visions that you want to accomplish, and take action every day. But don't beat yourself up because things don't work out exactly how you wanted. Instead, just learn from it and keep going.
What is your superhero?
Who is my superhero?
Yes.
Ooh, who is my superhero? Wow. Probably my Savior, Jesus Christ. I am a Christian, and I strongly rely on the atonement and rely on this belief that he understands everything I've ever been through, and that he knows my heart and my good, and it's because of him that I will be able to gain eternal life. And I truly believe that. And that is a big, big superhero thing. He's the person I turn to whenever I'm in the darkest of times. And I know he's my big brother, and I know he's there. So he is my real life superhero that I turn to.
Wow, he's a big guy to fill shoes, What legacy do you want to leave behind you, Kristy?
I'm not a person who loves funerals. I've always told my kids, I'm like, I don't want a funeral, I want a party. And at that party, I want all of the people that I've ever impacted through vocal coaching or through musical directing or through breakthrough facilitation. I want them to be able to come, and I want there to be karaoke area where people are singing. I want there to be places where people can see the pictures of all the different shows I directed or that I was in, and talk with each other about it. I want people to feel like when they were in my presence that I made them better and that I made them strive for more, and that my music made them happy and made them think and helped them through things they were going through. So if I can accomplish that, then I will have lived a very blessed life.
Wow. And when you break through to the other side, what's the conversation you're going to have with your brother?
I think I'm going to say thank you for pushing me. Sometimes I think I just want life to be easy. I want more ups than downs. But then I look at his life, at my Savior Jesus Christ's life. I'm like, man, he had a lot of hard things happen to him. And I look at other people that I really respect, and I go, life was not easy for these amazing humans. I look at people like Gandhi or Mother Teresa. I look at people like even Colonel Sanders, right? Like he was like in his 60s when he finally got his restaurant going, right? KFC. Like I look at these people and I'm amazed at how much hardship people often have to go through before the success happens. And I go, you know what? I want to be grateful for the hard. I want to say, okay, thank you for believing in me enough that you thought I could handle that. And then I want to just give him a big hug for helping me through it. Because I don't know if you've ever heard about the poem, The Footsteps in the Sand. But it's this poem that's written, and it talks about going through all these hard times in life and you're feeling very alone. But it was the times, and there was only one set of footprints a lot of the time. Sometimes there's two, but a lot of times there was only one. And it was always in the hardest times of your life. And you ask, why weren't you there in the hardest times? And it says, I was there. I was carrying you. And I have felt carried many times in my life. And so I'm going to just give him a big hug and say, thank you for carrying me.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
I should write a song about that. Footprints in the Sand. That might be a new song coming our way, Aron.
Yeah. And Kristy, you're a teacher, you're a mom, you're all of this. What fuels you to keep going?
Definitely my family. I love my kids so much. Being an example to them, being an example that when things get hard and things don't go right, you can still get up and keep going. I'm a complete extrovert. So people are what fuels me. So when I see that I'm making a difference in people's lives, it just makes me want to do that more. So that is a huge, huge blessing. Wanting to impact and make a difference in the world in a small way that I can. I think that's one of the main reasons I've created the Heart-Centered Speakers Network. Is part of this is to do more collaboration, because I love to collaborate with people and create more events and help people find each other so they can create events or get on more podcasts or create podcasts, right? Shows like this. So there's so much good we can do the world when we are collaborating with each other. And surrounding myself with more people that are doing good is really powerful. I have a hard time watching the news because everything seems to just focus on the negative. And I'm like, there's so much good in the world. That's what I want to focus on. I want to focus on the people who are making a difference, the people who are being positive, the people who are causing change. And in the Heart-Centered Speaker Network, the people that we're collecting in there that are joining that group have that mentality. And together, I really feel there's just going to be amazing collaborations happen. And I can't wait to see all the events and workshops and retreats and podcasts that are created from this and that I'll get to be a part of.
Wow, doors are open at the Positive Broadway. Come on in.
That's right. Come on in. You're welcome. Artists, singers, authors, podcast hosts, event hosts, you're all welcome. Come join us. People who want to speak, anyone with a message, which means anybody on the planet, because we all have a message.
And is that the dream you want to create through this platform?
It is. The dream I want to create is taking people who say you're an author, but you're an introvert. You write all these beautiful books, but you're scared to tell anybody that you've written them, right? I would love to take that person and help them connect with other people, and then go to an event and do a book signing, right? And be able to talk about the worlds they've created. Or an artist, right? Because some of these people who are so talented in the arts, they're not maybe as talented in telling people about the arts and speaking, right? That's a different skill. So taking an artist who does incredible murals or incredible painting, these are actual people in my classes, and giving them a voice to be able to go and pitch their ideas to companies and say, you know, this art would be amazing in your lobby, or this art would be amazing for this hotel chain, right? Making people feel like they can share their message and share their talents, because we all have so many gifts. And I think sometimes networking is the hardest part of when you are a creator. So how do I even get my creation out to the world? That's how I feel about my songs. Like they're out there. My songs are out on Spotify and Amazon Music, but how do I make sure people listen to it, right? You got to have a network of people sharing and spreading the word. I know I'm going to be telling people about your show, Aron, and getting people to watch it and be on here, because it's so amazing what you're accomplishing. And it's really, we are only as strong as our network. So I know a lot of people say your net worth is your network. And I think that's so true. And it's not just money. It's really about the relationships you create, the difference you can make, the collaborations that can happen. And that's how you and I met, was through a network with Forbes Riley. And I'm so appreciative of all the people I've met through her next level speaker training course, which was a mind-blowingly great opportunity to be a part of. So the more people you can meet and the more people you can work with and collaborate with, the bigger difference you're going to make in this world. And that's the legacy I want to leave.
Kristy, if people want to get more about you or find out who you are, what you are, where can they go?
So they can go to my website, thevocalconnection.com. They can also find me at Kristy Hunter Voice, which that's on Instagram and on Facebook. And on School, you can join the Heart-Centered Speaker Network and come and collaborate with me and with all the other people there. We have over 100 people that have joined so far, and it's just growing, and it's going to be absolutely incredible. So excited for all the things.
Kristy, you know, we could spend hours upon hours over cups of teas and ginger nut biscuits of music and vocals, but thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a blast.
Aron, thank you so much for having me today. You're amazing, and I am always inspired by all the things you're doing. Thank you.
Back at you. And everyone, go check out Kristy, because she's an incredible soul doing incredible things. And stay tuned to the next amazing episode of the Aron O'Dowd. I wonder who'll be next to share the incredibleness and the divine soul they have to make the superhero and the superpower of who they are and what they are. So thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you for listening to the Aron O'Dowd Show, where the world's best stories are told. If you like, please post a review or subscribe to the show. To find out more, contact us at aronodowd.com. That's ARONODOWD.com. We're always ready to share another magnificent tale from the world's best storytellers. So stay tuned and rock on.